So good afternoon, and again I am between me or my presentation and the coffee break, not the lunch, but now the coffee break. So I'll try to keep you awake for the next few minutes with my presentation regarding seed treatment. And just a few words on what is FarMore Technology and what we are doing in Syngenta to bring an early good stand in the crop. And I think that Jeff before mentioned very often that it's very important to have an early stand in the crop. A healthy start in the crop will provide a better yield. And for that, one part of it is obviously the nutritional part, which he very nicely covered. And the part that I want to cover is the seed treatment, so the application of active ingredients that can improve or can help the plant establish itself. So FarMore is a comprehensive combination of separately registered active ingredients. So there are several ingredients that we are registering in different parts of the globe. And together with technology application technologies, applying these AIs to the seed, and then providing the services of giving information about seed treatments. So that's the FarMore concept in Syngenta. So if I am able to figure out how to move forward, maybe. I'm not quite sure which button, sorry. There we go. There we go. Yes, to go to the right, yeah. Okay, thank you. So why seed treatment? I think it's just very basic to try to understand why do we have a seed treatment. And when you look at spraying the whole field, or for example, fumigation is going out now for several ingredients that are used as fumigants. They are no longer allowed. And so spraying whole areas is probably very inefficient. Probably spraying on the row, it's more efficient in furrow application, but obviously being able to treat a seed makes it even more efficient for a grower to be able to do that. The application then also helps for protecting the seed for seed-borne diseases or for the early pests that are found in the soil, for any damping off pathogens that are there. It is also a way to reduce the amount of active ingredient that is applied into the ground for worker safety as well. I mean, there is almost no contact of the active ingredients when you're using a seed treatment application, so less risks for the residues. It's also a way of simplifying for the grower, so he has not to do a second application or a second time to go with a tractor, so it really simplifies his labor costs. And it can also be a complementary to the genetics of the seed companies that know that their seed, obviously some of them we have some resistance, but for some other pathogens or pests we don't have any resistance. So it can be really complementary to genetics. So a good start is really a successful start for a crop. We know that there are several challenges for the early establishment of a seed, and fungal pathogens are probably the major ones. We have already heard several times Alternaria are seen in Japan, in California, actually here in Europe. I mean, in all of the carrot growing areas, we have Pythium, Alternaria as an important pathogen, as a seed-borne disease, and it's distributed worldwide. And obviously with contaminated seed it can be an issue because you are bringing this pathogen into the soil and into the growing areas. There is also black rot, Alternaria radicinea, which is also an important seed-borne disease. Also a soil-borne disease pathogen. In distribution, it's worldwide. It's mainly known as a major pest for storage of carrots, but in fact, it can also be a big problem in the establishment of the crop. although generally we don't consider that as much because it's not so visible. The plants do not survive, therefore we don't see that. We only see then the effects later, as in the picture where you can very clearly see later in the development of the plant the black or this ugly looking moss growing on top of the carrot. Infection in seeds is the main source, and the spores of the pathogen are generally found on the seed, but also mycelia goes into the seed. So it's a very critical pathogen. Then we also have the pythiums, which we have also heard, and again, these are well distributed in the carrot growing areas. Critical infection period is during the early seedling stage, but very often we only see the effects then later, like it was pointed out in some of the pictures that Jeff presented in the previous presentation, where he showed that this is a problem in California with the Pythium violea. And then we have, obviously, and probably more clear, those damping off pathogens, which are a mixture or a whole composition of different pathogens with Rhizoctonia and different Pythium species. And here, clearly, we have a very early mortality of seedlings, which actually, if you are able to treat your seed, you're able to at least also take advantage of controlling these pathogens. So the platform, the FarMore platform, is a composition of different active ingredients. So some of them for disease control. So we have primarily, and here in Europe, the development of the F200, which is the combination of two active ingredients, fludeoxonil and metalaxyl M, or also as products it's Maxime and Apron XL. In the US, we have an F300, which is the composition of three active ingredients, so it's including Dynasty or Acistrobin, which is also as part of the package. And currently we're doing some work in Brazil in the development of a stacked system where you have not only the fungicides but also insecticides and nematicides. And I will be talking about that in the presentation. The first part of it will be directed to the disease control and primarily to the European market, since this year or end of last year we got the registration for using fludeoxonil on carrots for some of the European countries. I have to say that registrations of active ingredients is not something very easy and is something that is very costly. Therefore, for every crop that we are registering a new active ingredient, it's quite an investment for the company, and therefore it's quite difficult to get new active ingredients. But we really realize, and you will see from some of the data that I will be presenting, that how important it is really to protect your crop early. And maybe we have forgotten the basics of some of these pathogens, and also the fact that we have been using active ingredients that are very old and very environmentally unfriendly, I would say. And they are still in the market. They're under a lot of pressure right now, for example, Thyran and Iprodion. So they are compounds that are out there that have been used for many years, but are being questioned and are being put again under regulatory pressure because they do have an impact to the environment. So we are trying to bring new active ingredients that follow all of the regulatory expectations for the human and for the environment health. So just a few words about Alternaria, because I think that we forget sometimes how complex these pathogens are. And I just want to illustrate that it's generally we see the pictures where you see the effects on the, if I'm able to, on the foliage. I'm afraid that I cannot show it, or this beamer is not, I guess not. Well, sorry about that. back. Oops, I have gone too fast. Well, anyway, so I just want to show that generally in the pictures we see the foliage effect. So the pathogen is generally on the green part of the crop. And obviously for processing this, as mentioned before, is very critical that you don't lose this foliage. But where does it actually, what other parts of the cycle do we have the pathogen? And as you see, seed infection is also available, and it's very often the case, although we are not that aware of that. So we often have seed lots that have the pathogen. And these go into the field, and obviously these can contaminate and have an issue in the whole growth of the crop. So for that, we have right now, as mentioned, registered fludioxonil, which is the product Maxime 480 FS. And we have done a series of testing also for registering the product and for getting it into the market. And obviously we have a very clear effect of this product when you compare it also with iprodion. It's comparable to iprodion. Iprodion has some drawbacks, but I think that we are in the same level of activity as a product that is currently in use. So that's the first product that we have specifically for Alternaria, for the two Alternarias, with very good control on seed-borne Alternaria. Then we have, for damping off, obviously Apron XL. This product has been in the market for some time and it's widely used. And here you can also very clearly see this is some work that was done in Brazil. In Brazil, we're trying to get the registrations of this product. It's not registered, it's not used. But here in Europe, it has been used for several years, and as well in the US. And you can clearly see that there is a very obvious benefit of using Apron XL on carrot seed in order to control Pythium during the early emergence of the crop. So 92.7% of the plants were on the check, which was non-inoculated, and we were reaching 77% of these plants also with the treated, whereas with the inoculated, we have only 5% that survived the inoculation. So when this was a set of 5 laboratory trials that were conducted in Brazil for the product. So last year, before the launch of the F200 here in Europe, there was a very large set of data that was, we asked the different seed companies if they would like to join and provide us their seed to do a testing of their genetics with the F200. We had 35 trials that were run during the summer of last year with different genetics and in 5 different European countries. And this is the summary of the data that was generated, just to give an impression of what it brings to have a seed treatment to your seeds compared to having a non-treated seed. And obviously a 10% stand in the field is quite valuable, I think, from a grower perspective. The average is about 13%, and you can see that it ranges from having no effect, very likely on places where the pathogens are not found, to areas where the benefits were over 40%. And marked in this graph are two bars which are shown in brown or in reddish kind of color, and these were seed lots that were infected with Alternaria. So these were seed-infected material, and there you can see that the advantage of having a seed treatment for such batches is about 20 to even 60% in the field as far as having emergence. So quite a clear, a nice set of data with quite a nice distribution, and obviously depending on the field and in the conditions you will have different amount of benefits. If you have a very strong Rhizoctonia or very strong Pythium infection in the field, obviously you will have a benefit, less or more of a benefit. So this clearly shows, at least we can say that 10% increase in crop stand is what we would expect in a European situation. Now, the other challenge that I want to go a little bit into, and unfortunately this is not necessarily for the European market, but we're more developing it for the US and the Brazilian market, it's the nematode control. And we have already seen several pictures and several times mentioned also the Japanese colleague. He showed or he mentioned in the regions where they are growing carrot in Japan, the different nematodes that they have. Generally in carrots there are about 90 species that have been identified, if not probably more. Probably the two major ones are the root rot nematode, and there are several species there, the Melodigna, and then you have the Incognita, the Javonica, Hapla. You have several different species of root knot nematode. And the second, probably largest one is the lichen nematode. In Brazil, we also have found that the spiral nematode plays quite an important role, but again, depending on the region. We have obviously stubby root nematode, needle nematode, sting nematode. So carrots are attacked by actually a lot of different nematode species. And obviously the effects of nematode attack are seen very clearly from the quality of the carrot at the end when you are harvesting. So the forking, which is very usual from having a nematode infestation, or the knots. So from the root knot nematode, you have seen previously the pictures from Jeff, where you can see that that's the Melodigna species that is attacking the carrots. So for that, we actually started some years ago, and this is the whole process of being able to register a new active ingredient that really makes sense for the producer, for the grower. And it has taken quite a long time to be able to move this into the yeah, it's okay. Into the market. In 2015, the first trials were started, and these trials were conducted in the University of California by Dr. Ol Becker, and they clearly illustrated that the use of abamectin could be a solution or a potential addition to other cultural practices for the control of nematodes. So these were the first studies. Then we have gone out to do further work in Brazil, in the Brazilian area where the production of carrot is, which is in the southeast area. And there, the first part was to determine which nematodes are there, and we clearly found that the root knot nematode was not was one of the primary ones, but also the cyst nematode, with other nematodes also being important. Now, we conducted works where we are stacking the fungicide and the nematicide active ingredients and treating the seed. And here is the first results of the average plant emergence of these FNI for 500, which has the fungicides and the nematicide. And you can clearly see that there is around a 16% increase in the emergence of the crop. So it's approximately a little bit more than the 10% that we saw just from the fungicides. So we are adding a 6% by controlling the nematodes at the early emergence of the plant. Now, what does this mean from a yield perspective? And this is the last work that we have conducted. It's completed last year, 2013, with 11 trials that were conducted on that area, in the southeast area where carrots are produced in Brazil. And we have clearly the 16% increase in emergence or stand of the crop, but the percent of yield is, this is the calculation of these 11 trials, is about a 24% increase in yield, with, in addition, a reduction in the number of yield which is not of saleable use, because the non-commercial or discard material is decreased. So there is a very clear impact on the yield for better stand, reduction in the discard, and increase in the quality and the quantity of the carrots. So with that, I have my last slide, and just a reminder, FarMore Technology, and if you want any more information, we have a stand. It's a comprehensive combination of the separate registered products, and depending on which country, you need to see whether that product is registered in the specific country where the seed will be used, proprietary application technologies, and dedicated seed treatment services. So I think with seed care can provide really a successful start for the crop. And with that, I leave you for your coffee break, and thank you very much.